The second thing is that liquid is really not that great. I mean, people call it worm tea or whatever. It's not. It is not worm tea. It is more, you could describe it as rotten food water is what you're getting out of the bottom of that. As your lettuce or whatever you're putting in there, your vegetables and your stocks and the water you're adding, spraying, all that stuff is just basically rotten water that's dripped down through the bottom. It's not a tea, something that's got microbes and that's been brewed or that's been allowed to set to enough to, you know, include a lot of microbes. That is rotten water. It basically nasty vegetable water, and it's not that great. It really isn't. Concentrate more on making a good castings, then make your tea, you know. Then you'll really have something. That's the whole object. But anyway, I digress. I'm talking too much again. Anyway, we're up to this point now. We've got the bin set up, back up, cleaned out, fresh paper. Worms are all back in there. They've been separated from their compost, or their castings. I keep saying compost, but it's castings, worm castings. That is awesome fertilizer. Awesome. It's worth the 45 minutes to an hour or so I actually spent the whole day in filming and waiting and this and that. It's worth it. Worth every penny. Okay, now what I have is I took my compost screen, which is a 2x6 frame with some of this lath, this metal lath on the bottom. I like this stuff because it's kind of sharp, and then it just does some wood to kind of help secure that lath down. It's also stapled. But anyway, I'm just using that right now as a place to dry my castings. Right, so normally I would use window screen here. I don't have any. I used it on another project. This is some of that filter, weed barrier that still allows water and air through. So, and that works fine. That'll work. And as you notice, it's pretty windy out here, so that's going to help too. And then I just lay this on there in the sun, and then dump out the castings. And I'm going to be careful as I get to the bottom. Yeah, there's some worms in there for sure. Just want to make sure there's no big globs. Okay, well that's good. And as you can see, it's pretty damp. It's pretty damp, and I normally don't keep my stuff this damp. And what I'm going to do is just spread it out, let that dry out as much as possible, and then I'll kind of turn it and keep turning it, and eventually it'll be it won't be so wet. Right now it'll clump up into a ball. Well, it's hard to use that as a fertilizer. So when it breaks up and a lot of the moisture's gone, then you've got a fantastic fertilizer. This is actually in my dining room, believe it or not. And I'm very germophobic. I gag easily and stuff. I can't eat within the vicinity of seeing a trash can or something. And this, it does not bother me. It's super clean. It never smells. There's not like flies all around it. It's nothing. It never has ever gotten to that point. And believe me, if it did, my wife would have it out in the garage the next day. So just to say, I mean, it does not stink. If you put a lot of food in that, it probably could stink just from the fact of the rotten food. You only feed them a little at a time, and worms do not actually eat what you put in the bin. They don't eat celery or lettuce or carrots or any of that stuff that you put in the bin. They eat the microbes and the bacteria and the fungi that deteriorate those foods. So they're waiting for them to deteriorate, and then they eat that stuff. They don't actually eat the banana peel. They eat the black and fungus and all that stuff that comes off of the banana peel is what they eat, and it does not smell. So anyway, I just wanted to show it in its position. And as you can see, I have the drain. you should not see much liquid in this. If you do, it's too wet. You're putting too much liquid in here. This is the bin that's empty, and it has some pots in the bottom to give it some airflow. Then you have the actual bin that has all the paper and the worms and the food. Then you have the lid that's ventilated. Ventilation is very important, as I said. Now, when I put food in the bin, or scraps, or whatever it might be, I usually will go to a corner, pull it back, and put the food and then kind of cover it over, because I guess, if you did leave too much food out, it will start attracting gnats and flies and stuff like that. If you cover it up with the paper, it really kind of helps solve that problem. Like I said, we've never had that problem. As you can see, there's some castings in there on top, but I just didn't feel like going through every granule. The stuff was so wet. And that stuff will eventually dry out and trickle down into the bottom tote. And as they produce castings, a lot of that will trickle into the bottom tote, and they'll stay up here as long as you're feeding them. That's not to say that there will be a lot of worms in the bottom. There will be, but not near as much as that's in where the food and the bedding and all that is. And that's about it. What I do is I have a tote, or a small container, not really a tote, and we put all our scraps in that, and I take it out to the garage and I put it in. I fill up 1 ounce bags with the various scraps and stuff that we put in them, and I throw them in my little beer refrigerator out there in the garage, and every couple of days or so I'll pull a bag out, let it sit and start kind of getting rotten, and you just put that much in each corner every so often, and you can tell they're eating, or when they've ate all the food that's in the corner, it's time to put another bag full in another corner. You just kind of keep putting food in different corners of it, an ounce at a time or so. And don't put anything that is acidic, or look at it this way, their skin is about as sensitive as your eye. So you wouldn't take a lemon peel or an onion or something like that and rub it in your eye, or a pepper. And if you look at it that way, that kind of narrows down the stuff that you want to put in there. They love banana peels, and more smoother or mild vegetables like cucumber and cantaloupe and lettuce and that kind of stuff. Which doesn't mean you can't add a little bit every now and then, just a little bit where it doesn't kill them, or burn them up. But and that's the worm bin. That's pretty much the setup and how I use it. And as you can see, there's a lot of material that comes out of that, and it's well worth it.